In 2026, a Windows user clicked an email notification. That should have been the whole story. A notification appears, you click it, and the message opens. This is one of the simplest interactions in modern computing. And yet, in the new Outlook for Windows, this basic act can take long enough to feel broken. The user clicks the notification and waits while Outlook loads the message. Classic Outlook, the old Win32 application Microsoft spent years preparing to replace, can perform the same action almost instantly. That should be embarrassing because Classic Outlook is ancient. It carries decades of enterprise compromise, PST files, COM add-ins, MAPI, VBA, public folders, custom forms, shared mailboxes, weird registry assumptions, and the general energy of a software that has survived every reorganization since Windows XP. And still, in the one moment that matters most to a user, it can feel faster. This is the surface of the Outlook Iceberg. At the top, Outlook is slow, annoying, confusing, and increasingly hostile to user preference. But the deeper story is stranger because Microsoft did more than redesign Outlook, it changed the nature of what Outlook is. Classic Outlook was a local desktop application connected to mail services. The new Outlook is a cloud-mediated web application presented as a desktop client. That sounds like a technical distinction, but it changes everything. Performance, privacy, and a basic question of who actually sits between you and your mailbox. To understand why Outlook feels worse, we have to understand what Outlook used to be. And to understand what Outlook used to be, we have to go back to the thing Microsoft was trying to escape. A powerful, ugly, deeply integrated desktop program that became, by accident, the operating system of office work. You don't hate Microsoft Office Outlook enough. Level 1. Slow. For most people, the complaint begins with speed. Classic Outlook feels faster because it behaves like a local application. It might be old, heavy, and ugly, but once it's running, it has local state. It knows where things are, and it can cache email, can open windows, and it can respond like desktop software. It's a desktop app. New Outlook feels different because it comes from a different world. It's built around web technology. That gives Microsoft a cleaner path to unify Outlook on the web, Outlook for Windows, and the one experience, faster rollout, more consistent features, and easier integration with cloud services. From the user's perspective, the distinction is brutal. They click an email, the Outlook began assembling a cloud-connected experience. This is why the delay matters. Delay is a symptom, and the illness is architectural. Then there's the new Outlook toggle. Try the new Outlook. That phrase sounds harmless. That sounds like a preview. A new coat of paint. Maybe rounded corners. Maybe a cleaner toolbar. Maybe a few features moved around because every software company believes the best way to improve productivity is to hide buttons people already use. But the toggle is more important than that. This is the first stage of migration. First, the new client appears as an option, then it becomes the default. Then users can still go back. Then eventually, that option goes away. This is how enterprise software moves, rarely through one dramatic out, more often through a long sequence of invitations that slowly become policy. The technical center of this is WebView 2. New Outlook is, in practical terms, a web experience wrapped in a desktop container. That makes sense if the goal is consistency, because Outlook on the web already exists, Microsoft 365 already lives in the browser, and the company wants services, identity, policy, search, Copilot, and the compliance to behave consistently across devices. But the user thought they had a desktop email client. What they increasingly have is a desktop-shaped window in a cloud service. And that creates a strange feeling that the old thing was worse in theory, but better in the hand. Classic Outlook was a haunted house, but at least the doors open when you touch them. Then comes the ad surface. There are few places more hostile to advertising than the inbox. The inbox is already where the modern worker receives meeting changes, invoices, HR notices, vendor updates, automated alerts, security warnings, travel confirmations, and messages from people who use "quick question" as a threat. So turning that surface into an advertising space is pretty bleak because email already feels like unpaid labor. The user opens Outlook to deal with obligations, and now the applications have sponsors. That is level 1, slow. The basic integration got worse. Level 2, annoying. The next layer is where Microsoft stops merely feeling slow and starts behaving like it has authority over the rest of your computer. The simplest example is link behavior. A user clicks a link inside Outlook or Teams, and most people would expect that link to open in the system default browser. That expectation is ancient. It's one of the basic social contracts of the desktop. But Microsoft decided that links from Outlook and Teams should open in Edge by default. This is the kind of product decision that looks small inside a planning meeting and feels enormous to the person using the box. The issue is less about Edge itself. The issue is that the user already made a choice, and Microsoft decided to route around it. Then, inside Edge, Outlook or Teams contacts can appear in a sidebar beside the web page. Microsoft describes this as a productivity feature. Stay in flow, keep contacts, and work across apps. And that is exactly how this kind of thing always sounds. Enterprise software rarely says, we are making the boundary between applications worse. It says, we are helping you stay in your workflow. But the result is strange. You click a link from Outlook, and Outlook follows you into the browser. The mail client becomes a chaperone. At the same time, the product itself becomes a maze. Outlook, Classic Outlook, New Outlook, Outlook for Windows, Outlook on the web, Outlook.com. Outlook is part of Microsoft 365. These are all called Outlook because, at some point, branding became cheaper than clarity. But the confusion still matters. When a product name refers to a desktop client, a web app, a consumer mail service, an enterprise client, a migration target, support becomes more like a theater. One person says Outlook is broken. The other asks, which Outlook? The answer is yes. The funniest version of this confusion is the Artemis anecdote. It's a spacecraft context, high technology, mission discipline, hardware built around precision, redundancy, and risk management. And somehow the joke is still two Outlooks. There's something almost poetic about that. Microsoft software had literally escaped the planet and still brought duplicate client confusion with it. That's level 2. Annoying. The product begins making decisions for the user. Level 3. Broken. The third layer is where the annoyance becomes administrative. This is where regular users become help desk tickets and help desk tickets become migration planning. Microsoft maintains